amazing hosts and our contributors. And then in the afternoon, we've got a student panel looking at the research, activism and work beyond Cambridge being done in and around sustainable food by current and former students. So to kick off, our first speaker is Dr. Tony Vanelli, International Head of Communications and Marketing for Veganuary. Tony gave up meat in her teens when she learned that we can live and be healthy without it. Now vegan for more than 30 years, she believes passionately that we need a mass shift towards plant-based eating. So take it away, Tony.
Thank you so much. So I'm with Veganuary, and I'm the head of communications. I'm primarily going to focus on the environmental impact of animal agriculture in my little bit of the presentation here. This is our campaign slogan for this year: where there's hummus, there's hope. Because we felt with the world in the state that it's in, it was important to focus on something positive that each of us can do to help make the world a better place. And of course, 3 times a day when we sit down to eat, we all have the power to go lighter on the planet, be kinder to our bodies, and of course be much, much kinder to the animals. So I'm going to focus just on the environmental impact that we can have through our diet. As of last year, 2 million people had officially taken part in Veganuary since we launched the campaign in 2014. By the end of this year's campaign, we'll be at 3 million. So these figures are already out of date, but they're the most recent ones that we've calculated. So these 2 million participants, simply by eating vegan for 31 days, saved a combined total of 12.4 million litres of water, over 207,000 tons of carbon, that's the equivalent of 2.4 million flights from London to Paris, 810 tons of phosphorus equivalent, so that's the same as sparing over 3,000 tons of sewage from our waterways, and the lives of 6.7 million animals. And that's just in 31 days. It does not take into account whether they change their diet at all after that period. But we do know that about 80% of Veganuary participants reduce their meat consumption by at least half when they've finished their 1-month pledge. So why? Why does eating vegan have this massive impact for the planet? So there's 4 different areas, and I'll cover them all very briefly. The number one that we all hear about is greenhouse gases. And there's 2 main gases involved in animal agriculture. There's the methane, which the animals themselves produce. So these are the ruminants, the cows, the pigs, the sheep, the lambs, the goats. And they use methane to break down their food. So obviously they have a complex digestion, and they need this to break down grass, which is highly inedible. And then they burp this out and fart it out, and it's in their manure. And it's a really powerful greenhouse gas, much more so than CO2. It's also short-lived, so it means if we can tackle this very quickly, then it'll be out of our atmosphere very quickly as well. So it's a quick solution. Then we have carbon dioxide, and this is produced at every other stage. So growing the animal feed, and this is really where so much of the water, the greenhouse gases, and the land use comes in. Because over 95% of the animals who we eat, certainly in this country, are locked up in factory farms. They're not outside in fields grazing, so food has to be produced and transported to them. So we grow soya, corn, palm oil, and all sorts of feed to feed them. Oops, sorry, slippy fingers. Then we need to power all the machinery for all of this. We need to power the farms themselves. Obviously, we pump water to water the crops, to water the animals. We need to transport the animals. Most of them get transported multiple times through their lives. We power the slaughterhouses, very energy-intensive facilities. And then, of course, we ship these products all around the world. Our World in Data, which is based at Oxford University, has done quite a lot of research on the European diet, the average diet, and shown where the emissions primarily come from. And although we hear a lot about food miles and buying locally, you can see from that little bar chart there that transport actually accounts for a very, very small proportion of the greenhouse gas emissions from our diet. In the average European diet, almost half of it is coming directly from the animals who we eat. So we've got the methane coming from the cattle at 22% and the manure management at 22%. So that's directly from the individual animals. Then we have land use change at 30%, and that's primarily forests being cut down to grow grazing for grazing land or to grow crops to feed to the animals, fertilizers, etc. But transport, actually very small. And then they break it down a bit further by individual food products that we consume. But their takeaway message was that if you want to reduce your carbon footprint of your food, you should be focusing on what you eat and not whether your food is local. And it's a real shame that so much of the narrative around food has been food miles. And air miles, because actually very few foods are shipped by air freight. Things like berries and asparagus, like the really perishable things, but even avocado, it comes by ship and still has a much smaller carbon footprint than beef that's produced around the corner from where you live. So you can see the graph there, it's primarily animal products at the top, vegetables at the bottom. But none of them have red as a big part of that graph, you know, the transport bit, it's all land use change or from the animals themselves. So then animal agriculture is a big user of land. So, you know, if you look at that bar chart there again, most of the surface of the earth is not land, it's water. Most of that land, well, only just over 2/3 of that land is actually habitable. Half of the habitable land is given over to agriculture, but then over 75% of that agricultural land is given over to livestock. When you look at where our calories actually come from, at the very bottom, only 17% of our calories come from animals and 83% come from plants, yet the vast majority of land is being used for animals. Again, just broken down a bit more by food source, but the gist of it is for the same amount of calories, beef requires that big green portion of land at the top, and rice and root vegetables down at the bottom take almost no land, soya very low down. And that's because cycling plants through animals is an incredibly inefficient way to produce food. So all other animals, just like us animals, burn most of the calories they take in just to stay alive. So their brains are functioning, that takes calories. Their digestion's functioning, that takes calories. So an average human adult burns about 12 calories if you sat still all day and didn't move. It's the same for any other animal. So most of the food that they're getting is going just to keep them alive. It's not going into muscle mass that you're then going to eat. So for every calorie we want of beef that's actually consumable for us, it takes 37 calories of plants, and so on down the line. Even eggs and dairy, very inefficient, 6 calories of plants just to get 1 calorie of edible product back. This also links into why it's so water intensive, because of course we must grow so many plants to feed to the animals, and growing those plants takes a huge amount of water, but then the animals themselves consume a huge amount of water, and processing those animals, I mean, a slaughterhouse uses an awful lot of water to keep that facility clean, as you can imagine. And then it's also a huge polluter of water because we have over 70 billion animals alive on this planet at any given time, farmed animals, land farmed animals, that's not even including the fish we farm, and they produce a lot of manure, and that has to go somewhere. So in the Wye Valley at the moment, this is the biggest problem, the free-range hen farms for eggs. Huge problem in the River Wye with too many nutrients going in from these farms, causing algal blooms, and then the rivers are dying. But we also see it in the ocean. So this is the Gulf of Mexico, where many of the major factory farms in the US drain into, and it's the largest ocean dead zone in the world because of all of that nutrient-rich manure making its way into the water. And that's me. I think that's bang on time.
Thank you so much, Tony. So our second speaker, as you can see, is Mitch Lee, UK Food Service Development Chef from Huera Foods. I apologise if I mispronounce the name. Mitch is the UK, as I said, Food Service Development Chef, a Spanish for Huera, a Spanish-based plant-based meat successor brand. His role involves showcasing the products to customers, showing how delicious plant-based food can be, and being a member of our panel today. So thank you, Mitch.
Thank you. First thing is, I'm sure many of you may have seen the logo and gone, I don't know how to say that. So it's technically Eura. In the UK, we've kind of accepted Hura will be the way people will say it. But I like to say it's hard to pronounce, it's easy to enjoy. So it doesn't matter how you say it, we just hope you enjoy it. So this presentation is a bit about Eura because being a Spanish brand, not many people know who we are or what we do. So around 7 years ago, 2 vegan activists wanted to change the food system. They were the typical vegans protesting, banners, trying to kind of battle the meat industry directly, and they thought, this is only going to do so much. We need to actually get people to vote with their fork, and to do that, we need to create something that is tasty, delicious, and can be used to replace meat. So with that in mind, they created a range of plant-based products. We're now the market leader in Spain and sort of growing across Europe. I think we're in 22 countries. But Mark and Bernat have now built a team. We're at 186 people. The UK team, there's only 6 of us, so we are very small in consideration. But again, we are growing. So a big part of what we like to do is we are a mission-led company. So I'm personally vegan. I've been vegan actually since Veganuary in 2016. And to me, the ethics side of the business is really important. So what we have done is we've created a big community. So my role when I actually joined Ayura back in a year and a half ago, it was community builder for the UK. And first thing to do was try and get people aligned with our mission, which is to help change the food system by getting people to choose more sustainable, delicious foods. So our Good Rebel community is growing and growing. We've got a really, really active social media community. We love to do things like events and big in-person activations where you're getting everyone involved. The branding's obviously very big and bold, so bright yellow. We love kind of playing with the characters and the colours, so you'll see a lot of more yellow to come. A big part, being that kind of like activism side, is we like to challenge the status quo. So it has always been done this way is no longer a valid excuse when people are like, oh, I would go vegan, but I always like to have meat in my diet, or it's always something we've done as family tradition. We're all about renewing traditions. So we're not saying get rid of any family heritage, forget where you've kind of what you've grown up knowing, but just try and find a more sustainable and ethical way of enjoying the same things. And that's where products like ours, like Planted, like Omni, can come into your diets to actually replicate the exact meals you know and love, but in a much, much better way, especially for the animals, for the environment, and probably for you, for your health. So this little diagram, I think, is a really clear kind of way of showing how progress has happened over time. So originally we used to have transport by horse. That's now moved to cars. Now we're moving to more of the electric cars and more sustainable kind of ways of travel. Same goes for whale oil. That uses a big energy source. Then we've gone to greenhouse gases, so using your coals, your fuels, those kind of things, moving to renewable energy, so on and so forth, to where meat is now in the future going to be made from plants. I'm really confident that that is the way that we're going to be going. I don't think that meat will ever truly leave the menu, but I think the massive percentage over the next few years will be moving more and more away from animals being the actual source of the protein and moving to the sustainable, the fermented foods, the basically plant-led meats, because our planet won't be around much longer if we do stick to the way we're currently farming and getting our meat. So again, what our whole mission is creating a range of products that are tasty and sustainable. So we've now done a whole different range of SKUs. We started with our chicken back in 2016, I think it was. And then since then, we've added everything from beef to a chorizo. And we've just literally launched some fish in Spain. So we've got like a breaded fish fillet and a fish finger. Because again, the sea is something that I'm sure Omni are going to talk a little bit more about the sea side as well. But the sea actually contributes a massive amount of greenhouse gases, more so or combined with the actual beef side of things. So it's a really, really big area that needs a lot more innovation. So we want to play our part to actually combat that by, again, creating these sustainable alternatives. So instead of alternatives, we position ourselves as meat successors. So in the early days, when you would have what would be like your vegan burger, it would probably be something that looked like a burger, but could have been made from an amalgamation of anything and everything just to create that shape. Nutritionally, it would have been very poor, or it could be something like tofu, which is still great. I'm not trying to bash tofu. I'm a massive lover of tofu. But if you want something that you want that bite, that flavor, that texture, then that's where the technology these days is really advancing to make something that is just replicating everything from the fibers to the texture to the fats. And that's where, for us, a really important part is what goes into the products. So we will focus on either soy or pea protein as the base for most of our products. Again, soy is something that has quite a big backlash. Everyone's like, soy is causing deforestation. However, as Tony's just shown, a lot of what the soy is used for is actually for animal feed and for food production that's not necessarily for us. So a very, very small percentage is actually going into things like plant-based meats. We use olive oil as our fat source. So again, we're Mediterranean. We want to celebrate that heritage. And it also means that it's really good in terms of low in saturated fats. And then very few other ingredients. So our chicken is basically soy protein, olive oil, water, spices. You've got the B12 in there, and that's pretty much it. So again, it's creating something that you know what's on the label, and it will taste very good and give you that same texture. In terms of us as a brand in the UK, we've kind of been slowly churning away, and this is just kind of a bit of a highlight reel. For me, a lot of my role involves going into restaurants, speaking with chefs, showing them why our products would work for them. And we're not trying to go in to kind of be the vegetarian option. We want to go in and compete with the meat. So if you're using chicken or beef on your menu, here's a great way of still being able to fulfill that, but using a plant-based product. So from the likes of Leon, Dishoom, we're the first plant-based meat that Mindful Chef has ever worked with because of their really high standards in terms of the sourcing, the fact that we're a B Corp, all these other things. It's really putting us at this position of it's a great quality product, and it's now available in Waitrose as of Veganuary as a launch. So super excited about that one. Sorry, I jumped ahead. So again, just with the Good Rebel side, this is just a few examples of like the kind of activations we've done. Bottom right, you'll see in COP27, we actually went to Glasgow and had a big campaign around the elephant in the room. So a big part of what we did, it was a bit of a guerrilla activation. We had a projector, and we were just projecting a massive elephant on the side, showing the carbon footprint that meat actually has in our diets, and the fact that the government still have not fully addressed it. And it's something we're really passionate that should be talked about more, because there's all these campaigns about green energy and renewable cars and all these kind of things, which is great, it's important. But diet is something you can change literally as of today. You have 3 times a day to vote with your fork. So by choosing something plant-based, it's a really, really easy way of doing that. Other examples on the screen, as you can see, it's the things like music festivals where people are going to have a great time, and then the food choice may be limited. So giving them those options. One thing that Bernat, one of our founders, says is without options, there is no freedom. So we always want to be the places where you're trying to give like people who are looking for that more sustainable choice the chance to do it. Tying in with Veganuary, my schedule at the moment, being kind of the only chef in the UK, is 3 or 4 demos a week. So I've been all over to different offices. I think getting into the main catering side is a really, really important part, because if the staff are working in a big office and they're just going to be eating what's on offer, you need to make sure you've got something that's vegan on there. So same with university, same with the schools. And then there's a few other launches, like I said. So enough self-promotion now. But thanks you for your time, and vote with your fork.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Oh, there we go. So our third speaker is Olivia Sinclair, the UK Marketing Manager of Eat Planted. Having studied archaeology and anthropology at the University of Cambridge at Wolfson College, Olivia now works as the UK Marketing Manager for Eat Planted, and she is working to launch the world's most transparent plant-based meat company in the UK.
Thank you very much. It's so exciting to be here. It's been over 10 years since I studied here, and I remember that having meat-free Mondays was a topic of conversation. So just to see this room full of people talking about this, having this conversation with so many great brands and having the support and validation from other great initiatives, it's just so exciting, and it just shows we're all moving in the right direction, but also that change takes time and a lot of effort and a lot of resource. But yeah, thrilled to be talking to you all today. I'll just be talking, I've got no slides, so it's just my little face you have to look at, but just talking about who Planted are, or Eat Planted, as we are in the UK, probably our most asked question. But yeah, who Planted are, what we stand for, and why personally I'm so proud to work for Planted and kind of bring the products to the people, both from a nutrition point of view, but also a sustainability point of view. So who are Planted? Well, we're a Swiss brand, and our sole purpose is making delicious plant-based meats, really juicy, really replicative, but also just showing there's no compromise. Our founders met at ETH in Zurich, which is a technological university, and they were undertaking their PhD. They were trying to work out what vegetable could perfectly recreate animal muscle fibers. And many, many, many rounds later, they found out it was the yellow split pea. And that's how Planter was born. Born from a thesis and now on our supermarket shelves, all within about 3.5 years, which is pretty cool. Our hero product is our chicken, which is made of the yellow split pea, and then just mortar, bit of rapeseed oil, and vitamin B12. That's it. We're super, super clean label, and actually that's our biggest USP. There's nothing artificial or added to our products whatsoever, so super, super clean. And you might be catching us in some out-of-home adverts at the moment, which just shout about if you can't spell your ingredients, don't eat them, which is all about just looking after what's in your food and in your diets. As well as chicken, we also do pulled pork, which is made with pea protein as well, but also oat protein and sunflower protein to give that longer muscle-like texture, but also a variety of protein into your diet. And from a really nice sustainability initiative, the sunflower protein we use for our pulled pork product actually comes from when you crush a sunflower seed, that casing is normally just waste, but we've actually extracted the protein from that sunflower seed case as byproduct valorization. I've been able to incorporate that into our product. And all of that just means it's a sustainable product in every part of the chain. So we're super proud of it. I think, like I say, the thing I'm most proud of is that we use nothing artificial, and the idea of nothing to hide, and we really are open to being questioned about what's in our ingredient list is at the heart of what we do. Transparency is everything to us. We have our own factory in Switzerland, which I'll touch on more in a little bit, but it's entirely made of glass. It's a greenhouse. 2 reasons for that. One, we've got nothing to hide. I think it was Paul McCartney said that if abattoirs had glass walls, we'd all be vegan. And I think for us, we just think that exemplifies glass walls, nothing to hide. We invite people to come and look in and see that we've got nothing to hide. So come in and see what makes our product. But also, we're made of plants. Plants are at the heart of what we do, and where else do plants grow best and flourish than in a greenhouse? So I think when I look at what differentiates us from a, I guess, nutrition point of view, so like I say, we use pea protein, which we know our pea protein contains all the essential amino acids that our body can't make. So a big question I know when it comes to plant-based diets is it sufficient? Is it nutritionally aligned? We know the answer is yes, but also to supplement, we add vitamin B12 as well, just to make sure it's really well-rounded. And from a protein perspective, our chicken, which you can see some packs at the back, they have 24 grams of protein per 100 grams, which we know is comparable to the animal counterpart. So there really is no compromise from a nutrition point of view. And in many ways, it's better. We know our chicken contains more fiber than the animal counterpart. And what's my stat? 63% less saturated fat. So you can really feel like you're doing your body some good whilst not missing out on any of those key nutritional pieces, which we know in the wake of COVID and in the way that the world is moving, health and nutrition is only growing in importance. And we know the more studies that we do, we know it affects our mental health as well as physical. So I'm just, again, super proud to work for a brand where nutrition is the focus and making sure everyone's getting exactly what they need. I could go on about low salt, no antibiotics, all those things, but you guys all know that. So it's, yeah, just like I say, really exciting to work for a brand with values super aligned to my own personal ones, but also to the way I think the world is going to. And then from a sustainability perspective, I guess the first one is a no-brainer. Obviously, our products are much, much better for animals than the animal counterpart. Really excitingly, at the very end of 2022, when we've been around since July 19, so 3.5 years, we surpassed the 1 million chickens saved mark. And for me, that's so exciting. And we keep these totals, so it's based on portions sold. So we're now on about 1.1 million chickens saved and just over 5,000 pigs. And personally, that's what motivates me to get up and go to work every day. The better I am at my job, hopefully, the more animal lives we get to save. So that, to me, means everything. Similarly, as Tony touched on, or talked about a lot, is that obviously we all know the toll on the environment that animal production has and animal husbandry. So we've done a life cycle assessment for all of our products. And again, seeing those stats about how much less water and less carbon footprint our products emit versus the animal counterpart. Just like Mitch says, you vote every day with your fork. You can really make decisions about every 4 hours, depending on how quickly you eat. So I think it's, to me, really impactful. You can make those differences. So makes me super proud. Also from a sustainability, but almost economical point, you actually get a lot more bang for your buck with plant-based meat. And I think this is true across all plant-based meat, so this is not even just a plug for Planted now. But we know that when you cook animal chicken, because of the water often put into the product, it shrinks. So you actually get about 75% of the cooked weight once you've cooked animal chicken. You lose a lot of that in the steam and the evaporation throughout the cooking process. That's not the case with our product. You buy 400 grams, you eat 400 grams. So just thinking when you scale that up, whether it's en masse catering or whether you're just cooking for yourself, you quite literally get more of the good stuff, of that protein, of that high fiber product, like I mentioned. And especially like our product, which has got a really similar taste, texture, mouthfeel, bite to animal chicken, you really aren't compromising. If anything, you're getting more, which is great. And kind of the last point I'll touch on for why I'm so proud of Planted from a sustainability angle is it's not just the brilliant product I think we make, or products, but it's also the way in which we make it. So we're really lucky that we have our own factory. If anyone knows the brand Maggie, it's like an old stock cube gravy kind of company. We're in their old factory site, but then we constructed our greenhouse inside of that. And it was all done with, like I say, sustainability at the heart. So the entire factory is run on Swiss hydropower, and our office is above the factory, so we've captured all of the heat that the factory emits, and that actually powers 80% of our office heating needs. So we're just trying to be as clever as we can and sustainable to minimize our company's impact on the planet while still doing good. Plus, we're also a pending B Corp, which, as everyone hopefully knows, is kind of the internationally recognized symbol for a company that meets the highest forms of social and environmental sustainability standards, and is something I'm very, very passionate about as well. So in my last 1 minute, I'll just give you a bit of an update as to where we are kind of in the UK. So as I mentioned, we're a Swiss brand. We're #1 over there, and we're now in 7 different markets. We launched in the UK about a year ago, so you can find us in places like Morrison's, Ocado, David Lloyd, and lots of independents, and restaurant chains too. And yeah, we're just really exciting. The conversations we're having with our retailers and our customers, they believe in it too. They know this is the way the world is going, and the fact that we can offer really, really similar products to the animal counterpart, but with all these additional nutritional and sustainable benefits, as well as health. It's a winner all round, and it's just really exciting to see the world move this way. So I've rambled on for 10 minutes. I'll just finish up by saying we're in business to help people do the best they can and to do good to themselves, the planet, the animals, and we want to make that as easy as possible. And I think one question we always get asked is, do people who are vegetarian or vegan or flexitarian, do they not, when you have a plant-based meal, do you not want to hero the veg? Well, you can absolutely do that. But for a lot of people, it's a big change. It's a big, whether, as Mitch said, like meat is so often impacted in traditions, traditional meals, family meals, heritage. Like we're saying, you can just make a tiny swap, but you change one element of your dish. Everything else stays the same. And who knows, hopefully it's by small but little changes like that, we can make a massive impact. And that's certainly what gets me up in the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Liv. So our fourth speaker today is Prats Bose, who works for UK Business Development at Omni Foods UK. Prats works closely with restaurants, pubs and cafes, and his primary objective is to get Omni on as many menus as possible, and in doing so, make it easier for everyone to enjoy tasty vegan food. He studied economics at the University of Nottingham and has an MBA from HEC Paris. Thank you, Prats.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. First of all, really happy to be here, being able to speak about, work that I do, a bit about myself as well. I thought I'd give a bit of a background. My name is Pratyush, Prats for short. I work for an organization called Green Monday, more specifically the food innovation arm of Green Monday, which is Omni Foods. I'll tell you a bit more about that. That's just the opening slides. So I could go with vision. Well, our vision is to be a global change maker for sustainable common good. Lots of words that I know. So what is Green Monday? We're a sustainability-focused organization based out of Hong Kong. We were set up in 2012, which was when it was kind of not heard of. It still is very much in its nascent stages in Asia. I'm Asian myself, so it's really cool to be able to work for an Asian company as such. We have quite an ambitious mission, as you can see. I'm not going to read out the whole thing. There's lots of words, very ambitious. And my whole point on my slides, I'm hoping to make that a bit more palatable. No pun intended there. So yeah, just a bit of what we've done, the recognition we've got over the years. Since 2012, which is when we started, it was very much advocacy focused, which was really just to encourage or just get the dialogue going with corporates, with institutions, education, sort of across, well, mainly in Hong Kong, but East Asia. As you can see, we've done quite a few things. And our founder, David Young, he's also been recognized with some huge accolades, whether it's the Entrepreneur of the Year from Ernst & Young in 2021, I believe, yes. Social Entrepreneur of the Year by World Economic Forum. So really some cool things, really exciting on the advocacy front. But you're probably wondering where I fit in or where the food element comes in, which is what I'm going to cover in the next few slides. Yeah, so that's where I fit in. So OmniFoods, like I mentioned, is the food innovation arm, which was relatively newer. That was set up in 2018, which is when we had our first product in Hong Kong. We've only been in the UK for about the best part of 2 years. My role there is business development manager. As Susie pointed out, like Mitch, I work in food service, and I'm basically trying to get our products on as many menus. For example, I'm not sure if anyone tried last Veganuary at Wagamama. We had the fish and chips. Sorry, this is a shameless plug, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. I don't know if anyone got to try that. So that was actually our first launch of our seafood into the UK. So that was pretty cool. I'm obsessed with food. I love it. So it's really cool to do that. Yeah, this is just a quick background. We're present in over 20 markets. We're very much a global organization, like I mentioned, headquartered in Hong Kong. We've got R&D facilities in Canada. We're in over 20 markets now. Yeah, and having said which, very small team. There's 3 of us in the UK, and I'm pretty much responsible for sales. So yeah, trying to do my bit to get on more menus. Lots of competition, though, I guess. It's a good thing as a vegan. It's good. Again, not going to go over that in too much detail, just to show sort of how we've grown from very much, I want to say, an intangible sort of advocacy-focused company, organization, to an actual sort of movement where we have products, we're able to actually affect people by, well, things you can buy at supermarkets or in restaurants. So yeah, that's since 2018, like I said, OmniFoods was launched in Hong Kong. Yep, this is just a quick snapshot, just to say how cool we are and all the things that we do. We're in lots of markets. Yeah, it was a huge deal when we launched into, we're in the US, so we're in Whole Foods there. We launched into Walmart recently, which is quite a big deal. I can't take credit for that. I'm not part of the US team, but it's really cool to be working for a company that has such a footprint. Some really awesome brand ambassadors, whether it's James Cameron, the McCartney families. We work quite closely with all of them. I got to meet them as well, which was quite cool. Yeah, so I just thought I'd take a step back instead of sort of, I think we've covered quite a bit of the environmental elements, sort of even the health parts of it, whether it's nutrition, etc. I thought it might be useful to kind of, take a step back and sort of talk about veganism in that sense. And before I do that, I would just be curious to see, with show of hands, how many people in here are vegan? Yeah, so just feel free, go for it. Well, cool. Well, I'm kind of happy to see that most people, well, sort of, there's more people who aren't vegan, because it's always a discussion I like to have and engage as someone who's vegan for the animals. I've been vegan, not on Tony's level, 30 years. I'm on my 7th year of veganism. But yeah, I just thought I'd take a step back. And so that's an article from 2012, which is obviously 11 years ago. I wasn't vegan back then. I'm from India. I do a lot of volunteer work with stray cats and dogs. And I had an initiative where I'd basically raise funds for cats and dogs through selling old sort of waste paper. So I do that, and it was really fulfilling. But at the same time, I'd go back home after finishing my gym session, and then have sort of a chicken breast and broccoli. Kept doing that, and it just didn't sit with me well, because I was kind of weird. It felt weird eating certain animals and then sort of selectively saving the lives of others. So I guess the question is it easy? Oh, one of the lines is, the formatting's gone, but the headline there's meant to be, is it easy going vegan? Well, I guess it depends. That's a word I heard a lot in my MBA, which was quite annoying because there was never a clear-cut answer, but I guess life is a bit like that. It really depends on your intrinsic motivation, I guess. So if you're very connected with the animals, where it comes from, if you have that passion or love for animals, I think it makes it easier just to incorporate that in your lifestyle. So it really just does come from where or why, the why behind why you're vegan or why you guys here. You know, there must be some interest in this space, in whether it's you're flexitarian or you're just curious to know, oh, what is all this? You heard about some of our brands, whether it's Heora. I did study Spanish, so I hope I'm saying, I made a mess of that. But, you know, you're hearing some of our brands. You're obviously, I hope, seeing us in Ocado. We're all there on Ocado. Again, shameless plug. I will be having quite a few shameless plugs throughout the slides. But yeah, just it's really the why of why you're here, right? So I thought that would just, taking a step back to cover that would be good. So before okay, there's a bit of formatting issues, but I'll go with it. It's fine. I'll try and be impromptu. No worries. So yeah, before I get onto that, so I guess the answer there is, quite honestly, I used to eat meat all the time, so it was not very easy going vegan, if I'm being very honest. But then just the more I kind of read up about it, the more I was connected to it, it just became easier to incorporate that into my lifestyle. But obviously I do appreciate it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not always just easy. It's not a black or white thing. It's not something you can just go cold turkey. So yeah, I just thought it'd be good to address some of the main obstacles people face. I hope some of you guys here are contemplating being more vegan or vegan friendly, or just sort of substituting a bit of the meat that you have currently for vegan options, Heora, Planted, or Omni. So yeah, that leads me to the next question about, well, the initial challenge is what do you even eat? That's meant to be a meme, by the way, where it says, you know, what my friends think I eat, what my boss thinks I eat, what my mom thinks I eat, and it's all basically just showing a salad. So just imagine,
I thought I'd fixed it.
yeah, no worries. So just imagine there's a lot of salad in there. And that's a shameless plug of our vegan fish and chips, which was at Wagamama for Veganuary 2022. So the point is, it's really evolved, as you can see, from Planted and Heora and Omni and some of the products on the high street, supermarkets. There's such a wide variety of products to enjoy that it's not just all that rabbit food, which people like to make a bit of a joke about. There's so many options to enjoy. So I think that we've gone way past that, and credit to the vegans from 30, 40, 50 years ago, had to make do with just a bit of salad or tofu and hummus. So I don't think that is an existing challenge. There's so much variety that you can eat pretty much anything. I mean, chips, baked beans on toast, that's vegan. So there's a lot more. Which leads to the other question when we do talk about our kind of products, Planted, Heora, Omni, Beyond Meat. I'm sure everyone's heard of these brands. You do get the, oh, well, it's too expensive for me. I can't eat that. I can't afford to keep eating vegan. I think that's a very big misconception. Yes, if you want to go out and you want to deck in it Beyond Burger, or, you know, with all the trimmings or toppings, it's well, energy costs and all those things aside, it's what it is. I think once we reach a scale where we can bring down the cost sort of on par with sort of meat producers and manufacturers, it'll probably bring down the cost. We are very much still as a sector category in our nascent stages. So yes, we may not be on par with meat, but if you just look at some of, well, your most basic vegan sort of vegetables, really, fruit and veg, peas, lentils, fruits, nuts, they're very much cheaper than your chicken breast, than your steak. So I think that's very much just that. It's a myth that vegan food is expensive. Yes, if you just eat sort of your meat, so you go out all the time, of course that's not going to be cheap. But if you're sensible about it and have a wide variety of foods that you eat, whole foods, plant-based diet is what they call. So just lots of fruits, vegetables, incorporating. Well, personally, I like to incorporate the rainbow on my plate as much as I can. It's actually pretty cost-effective. It's not too expensive. So that's just really a myth. And this is one I get often. I think the protein, which I think Mitch or Liv touched on that, is but where will I get my protein? Especially from my guy friends who go to the gym a lot, and they're always concerned about being buff and sort of being their bench press and whatnot. I go to the gym quite a bit myself, and I like to think, well, I'm still alive and I'm in shape. I think that's again another misconception coming from just lack of knowledge. There's a wide variety of protein sources. I'm not going to go through all of them. But as you can see, it's pretty much like for like. You take out whey protein, which obviously is the protein derivative of milk. in its concentrated form and in a protein tub. So that's obviously the most high level of protein. But if you really look at the other parts of the table, it's very much almost a like-for-like comparison. So if you're well informed about what you're consuming, you can very much hit your macros, as they say, and get enough protein to whatever your goals are, just to support your muscular sort of development, whether you want to be buff or just generally be a bit healthy, because yeah, we do need protein. And like we all pointed out, nutrition is a very important aspect. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't sort of, again, with lots of shameless plugs. So this is some of this just goes to show, I think Liv mentioned that we're pretty much, all of us, when we speak to the buyers or the purchasing managers, is very much a serious discussion. Everyone's very interested in everything that we're doing, because I think we all, well, just by the fact that you guys are here, I think we know it's not a trend, it's not a fad. Plant-based eating, veganism is here to stay. It's the way forward, and I don't think the planet won't last if we don't kind of make those changes. Just to show, there's so many different options, whether it's Mackie D's, that's in Asia for us, like I said, Wagmama last January, and a host of other places where you can eat good vegan food. Yeah, just it's here to stay, and I appreciate everyone being here and giving us the opportunity to speak about it. And lastly, I just also wanted to say I think a big obstacle we always find is, oh, I can't do veganism, or I can't be vegan. And I think that sort of misses the point of, it's not everything's black and white, it's not binary, it's not 0-1, it's about doing your bit. Just the fact that everyone's here is really encouraging, that I'm sure you guys are trying to do your bit at an individual level, and it really does come to that. We're at 8 billion plus the population, and it's only growing. And I think it's so important people underestimate the impact you can make with that small step. And I think the meme speaks for itself. Every small step that we take as collective action can have a big change. I love cats, so I did look for a cat meme. Yeah, just that's kind of covers my presentation. I didn't want to get too much into the company. I hope I touched upon that enough. But yeah, do check us out, OmniFoods, the website, or omnifoods.uk on Instagram. We're available on Ocado, so please do buy some of our stuff. I did mention, so we do a pork range, so we've got Omni Pork and Omni Seafood, which is pretty exciting. I guess we have some competition now from Hera, because we were one of the sort of first or pioneers of the seafood in the UK. But the more the merrier, because we're all here sort of as friends, trying to grow the sector, trying to grow the category, and give all you guys and all of us as vegans or flexitarians, everyone, more options to eat tasty food that just happens to be vegan, and you do less harm to the planet, to the animals. And yeah, that's me. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So our final speaker, absolutely last but not least, is Gemma Burley, the Head of Programmes at Cambridge Sustainable Food. Gemma is also a Director of Cambridge Sustainable Food CIC, and she co-develops organisational strategy and manages a variety of sustainable food programmes and projects that are good for the people and planet right here in Cambridge.
Thanks, Susie. Hi, everybody. Really nice to join you today. And a really nice lead on, actually, from the previous presentation about small steps having a big impact. So I just wanted to run you through some of the great work that's going on around Cambridge. I can only cover a small proportion of it here, but look forward to chatting with you later about some of the good stuff you're all doing in your colleges and beyond. So you might have heard about Gold Food Cambridge. Yes, we can. Have a little look now on social media. We're doing loads of fantastic work with loads of partners and organisations and residents across the city to get us to the next stage in terms of sustainable food. So a bit about us. We are a not-for-profit organisation working in Cambridge, as the name suggests, and our aim is to build a fairer, more environmentally sustainable food system that supports everybody, people and planet. And we are the lead organisation for the Food Partnership in Cambridge, which was set up quite a few years ago now, which is a network of organisations all doing fantastic things around food. Last summer, we achieved silver from Sustainable Food Places, which is an award scheme convened by Soil Association, Food Matters, and Sustain, and is really recognised as the best practice approach to food system change. So we achieved a silver last year, and we are now focusing on gold. My formatting was supposed to say an international movement, so you can probably work that out. But we're not the only ones working on this. Sustainable Food Places Network now has around 80 places, cities, areas around the UK, all taking action around holistic food system change. And it's happening internationally as well, around municipalities, cities, areas all around the world. So this is all happening, and we're all on board, I hope. The focus of the work really kind of convenes around these 6 key areas here. I won't read them out, but some of the areas that we're really going hard on, we need to show progress on all 6 areas to meet gold, for Cambridge to become a gold sustainable food city by 2024. And we're really focusing on 2 areas, food justice and food and climate and nature recovery. So this campaign really seeks to draw in everybody in our city to capture all of the fantastic work that's already going on around food, climate and wider food issues, and then to go further. We need to make that step up in order to meet gold. There's only 2 other areas in the UK, Brighton and Hove and Bristol, that have gold. So the challenge is on, and we need everybody's help. So the way we're going about doing this in terms of the climate focus for us is to really try to raise awareness amongst our residents, community groups, organisations and businesses around the link between food, climate change and nature. And we're doing this through a climate diets campaign, which is all about eating less meat and more plants. You might have seen last year we held a Food for the Planet festival, which was our biggest yet. We've run festivals pretty much every year, apart from during COVID. And we had over 30 community events happening, all focused around food issues. So looking at how we can celebrate plant-based food, our local suppliers, and also reduce food waste. As part of this, we're encouraging people to sign up to the Cambridge Climate Change Charter, which was developed by Cambridge City Council in partnership with Cambridge Carbon Footprint and ourselves. And that's a pledge system where people can make a series of promises around food, but also wider issues around climate. And it captures all the action that's going on, all the pledges made to get a total for Cambridge. So worth a look, and there's lots of good resources on the website as well. We do lots of outreach around the city, around the Climate Diets campaign, and there's lots of activity going on across the partnership too. Businesses are also involved, and organisations too. So last festival season we had loads of organisations selling climate specials, doing different dishes and discounts that focused around plant-based food, and getting opportunities for people to try stuff. I think often people don't necessarily want to spend, £10 on a lunch if they're not sure that they're going to like it. So giving people opportunities to try plant-based food as well was really successful. A couple of schools were involved, and we're hoping to expand that this year too, so that we get more schools' awareness up as well. Wider business work, there's loads of fantastic stuff going on across the city. We have an award scheme for business which allows businesses to get recognised for the good work they're doing around environmental impact and wider issues as well. We convene a food business alliance for businesses to come together to talk about some of these issues and try and overcome some of these challenges together. We're all working on a lot of the same issues, so really trying to get people in the same room so we can share best practice and move forward quicker. We also have a food directory on our website, which is a really nice place for people to go to find sustainable suppliers and cafes, restaurants around the city. And again, similar to the pledge for residents, we're encouraging businesses to take a planet pledge, which is all about looking at meat sourcing, trying to reduce meat and dairy, as well as other actions to build a more sustainable food system. There's loads of resources on the website and our partners as well, so do have a look and see if you can make a pledge to join the Gold Food Cambridge campaign. We're also aware, though, that good food access can be an issue in our communities. 1 in 4 just almost 1 in 4 children are living in poverty in Cambridge, which is up from a couple of years ago. We know that even before the pandemic, people were struggling, and the pandemic plus the cost of living crisis has really made things so much harder for so many more people. So at the start of the pandemic, we worked with local community organisations, churches, mutual aid groups, all sorts of wonderful organisations to set up 8 food hubs around the city where people can access food for free, no questions asked, not means tested. A lot of it's surplus and donated, and we've had some wonderful business and organisation relationships developed through that process, donating food, volunteer time, money as well. So we're really keen to actually try to increase access to good food in the city. So those food hubs and work across the Food Poverty Alliance partners is also really key here. And things like Christmas dinner, putting Christmas dinners together for people in sheltered housing and getting packages out to people at Christmas that might otherwise be struggling to have a treat over the holidays. There's also been a really fantastic community outpouring. So through the pandemic, it was a common story across the country and beyond of people getting involved in their communities. So as well as so many volunteers helping at the food hubs to get food out to people that need it, we also launched a Grow a Row campaign, which is about asking organisations, community groups, residents to grow extra fruit and veg to donate to those food hubs so that people can have a good diet and have access to some of this gorgeous produce. I've just got lots of pictures of vegetables here, basically. So we've had loads of organisations donating, allotments, community groups, schools, growing stuff, giving plants away, all sorts of lovely things keep arriving on our doorstep at the Community Food Centre to get out to people that might want it. And we're also aware how important food is to building community. That's part of the reason why I love working in this field, is because food can be so transformational and it brings people together. And so we're really keen and already doing, lots of great work along with others around bringing people together through food in various ways. So whether it's growing events or getting together to share community meals, that also really helps with skills sharing. So helping people to learn how to cook, having people to come and tell us about some of the skills they might have around growing at home or how to make the most of leftover bits of food at home. So we really see the power of food in our community is so strong, and there's so much fantastic work happening. But we have a really long way to go to get to goal by 2024. So I'd encourage you to join us, sign up to the newsletter, get involved. This is not something we can do alone, and the more people that can get involved, tell us what you're doing and go that step further, will put us really on a good track towards getting gold next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gemma, and thank you to all of our speakers today. We've got a couple of minutes left. If anyone has any questions, I will ask one of our speakers whether I could have a microphone, because I'll be a roving reporter. If anyone does have a question, I'll go.
Mine's an interactive question. I'd like to ask everyone in the room to put their hand up if they have a dog or cat. And my question to you is, what are you doing about providing sustainable plant-based foods to pets?
Would any of you like to take an answer to that question?
I mean, I can jump in. For the dog food side of thing, over the last years in particular, there's been a really big movement towards more vegan dog food production. So there's everything from the dried grains to actual tins of food made from just whole foods. So there's loads of companies now who are doing amazing things. The first one I can think of is The Pack. I know they've just done a massive investment round. They're really growing. But as a cat owner, it's something that I'm very conscious of. It's very hard to have vegan cats. Like there is advances going there. I think this is where things like cultured proteins and these cultured meats that are taking from the cellular level and replicating a meat source, but there's less impact on the environment. That side of food really excites me. Another slightly kind of controversial is the insect protein side of things. Insects are super easy to harvest, really high protein source, really great food source. And so there's now, even within human food, there's companies making both pet food and human food from insects because of what you can do in terms of the amount of water needed and energy needed to produce, a calorie. And it's a great option. Sadly, it didn't agree with my cat, so I just try and source kind of better quality food that has less rubbish in it. But that's from my point of view.
My cat really likes eating cucumber and licking avocado skins, I found out over the last few months. So we're on kind of regular food, but looking at transitioning. But yeah, surprisingly, cats like some weird things, so worth a go.
Other questions. I know, Stephen.
Sorry, if you covered this at the beginning, I was late. Apologies. Thanks, Susie. Oh, fine enough. Plastic packaging. As a consumer, if I buy alternative meat or some of the latest products that are available in supermarkets, they come in relatively small packs. They're relatively expensive, which I know we've covered, and they're shrouded in plastic. Why? Can you move to cardboard or some other form of sustainable packaging? And can you increase the packaging size so that we get better value for money as consumers, please?
Yeah, it's a valid question. And we're sort of, like I said, we're fairly new to the UK with our products. Our products do have primarily plastic packaging. We are making the transition to cardboard or more sustainably sourced paper-based packaging. Ultimately, it does come down to costs because it is a commercial. There is a huge commercial element to it. So the more commercially viable or feasible we can make it, the more people we can reach. So I can't speak for the other organizations, but I know, given our heritage, our focus was very much, or at least for David, I know he's sort of vegan for the animals. I mean, don't quote me on that, but we do it for the environment, for the health and the animals. So that's sort of our guiding principle. But yeah, eventually we do want to get there because yeah, that takes, you have to have a 360-degree approach, right? Yes, it's great saving animals, but if you're going to harming the environment, which then impacts us and where the animals live, it's sort of kind of being contradictory. So yeah, completely agree with you. We are trying to make that transition. Brands like here, I know, Mitch, you can go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can jump in there. As a business, so when we launched our products, we had what was called Halo Pack, so it was recycled cardboard packets. We've actually found that it takes more energy to produce, more resource to produce, and the end lifespan, even though it's cardboard and should technically get broken down, because it has to have a food-safe seal on it, it was just getting burnt. So actually by swapping to fully recycled plastic, which is then easy to recycle again, you're actually saving more resources. We did this whole study, and it was quite a controversial move as a vegan brand to go from something that, from a face value, you look at it and go, that looks amazing and sustainable, that's plastic. We back everything by data, and of course we're looking at the plant cellulose, these kind of things, but then you also have to take into account food security, food safety, lifespan, which if your product is in a fully sustainable biodegradable packaging, great, but if the lifespan is 5 days, then suddenly that's not sustainable because the amount of wastage then goes up, which then the carbon footprint goes up. So.
Yeah, thank you. And just to completely echo, a lot of our packaging is determined by what keeps the food as safe as possible. For our retail packs, they are actually in a plastic tray, fully recyclable, with a cardboard sleeve, fully recyclable. The only thing that's not at the moment is the plastic film, which we're working on. And also in terms of portion size, completely agree. Our retail packs are 160 gram, and that's a combination of just matching what's in the market, but also keeping the price point affordable to make it as accessible as possible. But on our website, you can buy 220 gram and 400 gram. So it gives you that option of if you're going to buy en masse, you can do it that way. But I agree, it's something it's top of mind always. So great to hear you asking. Thank you.
I hate to cut short questions, but I'm just mindful of the fact I can see our Wolfson chefs cooking already. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to find our speakers during our networking. But we've got some amazing plant-based food options for you now, whether that's some brownies and some sweet treats there, Eat Planted, or Wolfson themselves that are providing some lovely food, as I'm sure you can smell, and my stomach is definitely rumbling. So I just want to say one last massive thank you to our speakers. Thank you so much. Now, please go and eat lots of food because this is a sustainability event and I don't want any waste.